All right, so we're recording today's session. It is Tuesday, April 17th, and today what we're going to be talking about are how to conduct successful claims investigations, because claims investigations are one of those things that probably will take up the most of your time from the standpoint of the hours that you have to spend doing insurance. Unfortunately, what happens is that you're going to end up doing 80% of your work for 10% of the claims that don't get paid. That's very, very common. And so what we want to make sure of is, number one, you know how to do this as efficiently as possible with as little time wasted, because you can really get to spinning your wheels when it comes to claims investigations. And there are going to be times where you're going to end up having to spend an hour or 2 hours on one patient account or one claim because it's such a mess. But for the most part, you want to try to streamline this operation as much as you can. And so what we're going to talk about today is just successful claims investigations. We'll also be going into a few other things, but I really want to get through this today. So the bottom line is that claims aren't always going to get paid. The billing and the posting of the claims most of the time is the easy part. You can get those claims out, you can post the payments, but it's what happens with those payments or those checks or the EOBs that don't get paid correctly. What happens with claims that never come back and you receive no information on those claims at all? How do we keep track of those, and how do we prevent those from falling through the cracks? And so claims investigations are going to be initiated in a number of different ways and for a number of different reasons. The first way a claim investigation can be initiated is from your reports. And so one of the things that you should be doing every month is running an accounts receivable report. And in some cases, depending on the software you use, it could be called an aged accounts receivable, or an aging report, or an outstanding claims report, unpaid claims report. It really just depends on your software. And each month, your goal is to run that report and work through that AR from start to finish in 30 days. So depending on how big your AR is, you may or may not be able to do that in the first few months, but eventually you want to get your AR down to a point where you're really able to focus on just a small group of claims that have had no activity on them or have not been paid correctly. And we'll talk about that as we move through this today. The other is going to be by office request. And when I say by office request, this might be a patient that is at the front desk and they're checking out and they're saying, hey, what's going on with my insurance? Or the doctor may ask you, hey, what's going on with so-and-so's insurance? Have we ever gotten paid on this claim, or have we ever gotten paid on this auto case? And so you may be asked on an individual basis, either by the doctor or by Susie, the office manager, or by a patient, to check on their account. And so that's another way that you might end up having to initiate an unpaid claim, or investigate an unpaid claim. Some of it may come from your own personal observation. So, for example, if you're working in a patient account and you're posting checks or updating information, or let's say in ChiroTouch you're in the ledger, and you see that in the ledger you have a bunch of claims recently that are in paid status, but then you have earlier claims that are still in billed status, and that means that they haven't been paid yet, or you haven't received anything on them. And so that might prompt you to investigate, like, why have these claims been paid from the end of March, but I've got a few claims in January that didn't get paid. Another way that you might initiate a claims investigation is from the incorrectly paid EOBs. And we talked about that last week when we were looking at EOBs and what to do if you see an EOB that hasn't been paid correctly. Maybe they have paid it out of network versus in network. Maybe there was a code that was billed out that's missing. It's not even on the claim. And so,
Right.
and sometimes, they'll deny a claim, and in spite of looking at all the reason codes for the denial, there may be no clear reason why the claim should have been denied. So, one of the main things that it's really important for you to do is to just be observant. If you run into situations like that, that means that you need to launch an investigation. So, the first steps that you're going to want to do in launching an investigation is to, at the beginning of each month, you should print a monthly report. And this is like I said, this is going to be your aged accounts receivable report. I believe in ChiroTouch, that is what it's called, aged accounts receivable report. And the cool thing with ChiroTouch is that you can filter the reports. So when we talk about working efficiently, instead of just printing a report for all of your patients on one report where there's outstanding money, you can filter it by insurance types. So for example, you could filter it by commercial insurance, personal injury, Medicare, Blue Cross. Sometimes you can filter it even by the payers like Cigna or Humana. And then what will happen is you'll receive a report, or you'll print a report that shows all of the patients who have outstanding claims and the age of those claims. So are the claims under 30 days old, or are they 30 to 60, 61 to 90, 90 plus, 120 plus? Okay. And so, and you may be able, when you first run your AR, you may run into claims that are aged out over 120 days. And when you start looking at them, they're like really old, like 2, 3, 4 years old. These are probably uncollectible. And so sometimes what will happen is a doctor will look at these reports and they'll see all of this old money and they'll want you to chase after it. But what you really don't understand is that chasing after money that is 2 or 3 years old is generally kind of a lost cause by then. It's very unlikely, number one, that the patient is ever going to pay, and number two is if it's outstanding insurance, probably one of two things have been done. Either the claim has been paid, but it was never posted, so it's just going to be time on your hands to contact the insurance company and find out where those EOBs are, or they haven't been paid, but now you're way past timely filing, so you're going to have to write it off anyway. So the sweet spot for your AR, okay, when you're running an AR report, is that about 45 to 90 day range. Anything that's in there, you really need to be aggressive about investigating and looking at why these claims in this 45 to 90 day range haven't been paid. And honestly, if we're gonna actually run an AR together, you and me, but when you look at that AR, it might be the first time you run it, it might be so massive that you don't even know where to start. You know what I mean? It's like kind of overwhelming. And so the goal is going to be to really focus on that sweet spot, the 45 to 90 day range, because if we can keep that cleaned up, then what will end up happening is over a period of a few months, then you're going to end up with some really old claims that are pretty much uncollectible. But then the new stuff is going to be under control, okay? And you won't have to worry about these claims that are aging out 60 to 90 days spilling over into the over 120 days. And so the goal is going to be we clean up the recent accounts receivable, then we look at the old stuff, and if we have to write off a bunch of of old accounts to clean the rest of it up, then we'll do that. But again, and this isn't for all accounts. So for example, personal injury claims may stay on your accounts receivable for a long time because they may be under litigation, they may be with an attorney, and so for personal injury, it's going to be a little bit different. But for commercial, anything that's older than a year is pretty much uncollectible, both by the insurance company and the patient. And so what you're going to do is when you get that AR report, you're going to start highlighting it. You know, I'm old school. I like to print it up. You can keep it on your computer if you want in a PDF, but for me, I like to, touch it and see it. That's just me. But what I do is as soon as I get my report printed, I'll get a highlighter out and I'll start highlighting the critical accounts. Okay. And this again, the critical for me is going to be anything over 45 days. So if it's in the 30 to 60, 60 to 90, and 90 to 120 days, that's going to be those are the columns I'm really going to look at. I'm not going to worry about anything that's under 30 days because it means that we've just recently filed it. But we're going to look at those critical accounts. So we're going to look for accounts where there's been no payment received, accounts with very large balances, accounts where we can see that recent claims have been paid, but earlier claims are still outstanding, accounts that are coming up on timely filing deadlines. And one of the things that we're going to want to do is we're going to try to run an AR for United Healthcare, because United Healthcare has a 90-day timely filing. And so that's one of the shortest of the timely filing deadlines that we have to meet. And so we can't have anything in United Healthcare over 90 days, because once it goes over 90 days, it's pretty much uncollectible. Unless we're working on an appeal, and then you have 180 days to appeal. But still, anything that's older than 6 months and it hasn't been followed up on is pretty much going to be a write-off at this point. And so any accounts coming up on timely filing deadlines, we have to highlight. And then if you've been doing initial investigations, but they're still outstanding and now need a second follow-up, okay, those are going to be, so basically what you'll do is through your AR report, you're going to target accounts that need to be looked into, okay? And then from there, we begin to investigate. And so, sometimes the most natural thought on an investigation is to pick up the phone and call the insurance company and find out what the status of the claim is. But that can be pretty inefficient because of the amount of time you have to spend on the phone with the insurance company. And sometimes it's a very simple thing, okay? And so the first thing we want to do is we're going to start, when you do your claims investigations, you want to start at the source of the claim. And so the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to conduct an internal software investigation before you decide to call the insurance company. And so here are the things that you're going to look at. So let's say this claim is outstanding. You need to see if it was even billed, okay? And sometimes, like, the demographics were incorrectly entered and the claim never got picked up for billing. In ChiroTouch, there is a report that we need to run on about a semi-monthly basis called Charges Not Waiting to be Billed. Okay, so I want you to write that down because we're going to run that report together, Charges Not Waiting to be Billed. And the charges not waiting to be billed are basically charges that were posted to a patient's account before you entered insurance in the patient's account. Any of those charges don't get picked up for billing, and so they may just be sitting there waiting to be billed, but they haven't been assigned the trading partner ID, they haven't been assigned a case type, they haven't been assigned to the insurance company because all of the insurance was entered after you posted the charges. And that's really common in ChiroTouch. So that would be one of the first places you'd look when you see something on the AR is, okay, are they sitting in charges not waiting to be billed? If not, and it shows in ChiroTouch that they actually have been billed and they were actually picked up for billing and sent to the clearinghouse, then you would look at, maybe the clearinghouse has that claim and it was aired at the clearinghouse, and there was an error and the error didn't get fixed for whatever reason, and the clearinghouse never sent it forward, and so it's just sitting there waiting to be forwarded to the payer. So what you would do is you would take that claim from the life of the claim, which is from the point at which it's billed from your software, and you will look for that claim along that path. Okay? And if at any point during that path you can find that claim, then you don't have to call the payer. So essentially the procedure is the other thing that you're going to look for is, in your software, maybe you already have been working on this claim. You'll look for patient notes that would alert you that, oh yeah, I remember I was working on this last month and I still haven't heard anything back, so now I need to follow up, okay? And so the procedure for investigating claims, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to gather up all the information you need on the unpaid claim. That is going to include the patient name, their date of birth, the insurance company, their ID, their group number, and the dates of service that are in question, okay? You're going to check your software to see if the claims have even been billed. If not, we don't have to do the rest of this because we just have to get the claims billed out. But if the claims have been billed, then we're going to go to the clearinghouse and we're going to look for that claim at the clearinghouse. If the clearinghouse, and you can run a search, you use TriZetto, correct?
No, we use Infinity.
Infinity, okay. So in Infinity, you can go into the claims processing section, and you can do a search for that claim, and it will tell you what the status of that claim was, if it was accepted by the payer, if it was, it has the yellow mark or the green check mark, that type of thing. If it was accepted by the payer, then what you'll do is you'll go to the payer site, such as Availity or Navinet, or directly to the payer site, log into your provider portal, and then you'll do an EOB search, or you'll do an outstanding claim search. And you'll type in all the information for that claim to see what the status of that claim is, whether it's processing, whether there's an EOB waiting to be posted, and so on and so forth. So if the clearinghouse or the online investigation can't produce any results, so once you've gone through all those steps and you're still not seeing that claim, or you go to the payer site and the payer site is showing the claim as pending, okay? Then at that point you're going to call the insurance carrier. And what you're going to do is you're going to create an initial claim status investigation form, so you have it in front of you when you're on the phone. And this is, I sent you that the form as an attachment to an email, so you'll have a copy of this. But essentially, what you'll do is you'll write up a claim status investigation, and you'll enter in all of this information: the name of the patient, their date of birth, the carrier, phone number. If there was an EOB that you're investigating that was incorrectly paid, you can write down the EOB number, the policy number, the dates of service in question, and the reason for the inquiry. And then once you call, you're going to get the name of the claims rep, the time of the call, and you'll always want to get a reference number for your call. And so let's say the reason for inquiry is claim was never paid, and no info at carrier site. So you'll call them up, you'll say, hey, I'm checking on this claim. There's no information at the carrier site. The clearinghouse has showed that this claim has been accepted. Can you tell me why this claim has not been paid? And so then the rep will give you that information. And so you'll write that all down, okay?
Mhm.
You'll ask the rep, well, what do I need to do to rectify this situation, or is there anything else that we need to do to expedite this claim? And then they'll tell you that, and then at that point you'll get the reference number, and then you'll take the appropriate action on it. And then what you'll do is you'll write down the action steps that you took for that claim. Now, I give you this form because I have found that even though I document all of this in the notes, in the patient notes in ChiroTouch, when I'm actually on the phone, it's hard to be typing in those notes. It's just easier for me to write all the information down and then type the notes in later. Okay.
Okay.
And so what
Yeah.
I do is I get copies. I make, multiple copies of these forms, and I do my calls. I write it all up, and then, when I have 15 minutes or so, I will just type all the notes into ChiroTouch. And so this
Okay.
way, you have a paper trail of everything that you've done, or if you want to, you can simply upload this form directly into the Documents tab in ChiroTouch. So you have it, you can name it Claim Investigation and the date that you did the investigation, and you'll have a copy of this, and then you can shred it so you don't have to, you don't have to keep all the paper.
Yeah.
But this is a very, very helpful form. Um, a couple of things that you'll want to do is you'll want to document any action that you've taken on that claim. Okay,
Mhm.
rebuild or sent notes, faxed notes over to the insurance company or whatever the case is.
Mhm.
But you'll also want to make a calendar note for yourself to follow up on this over, in a period of, let's say, 2 weeks from now, you're going to want to follow up on the follow-up. So one of the biggest leaks that I see in claims investigations is that you initiate these follow-ups and then you don't follow up on it after a period of time. Okay.
Right.
It will pick it up again if it's still on the AR in a month. But the question is do you want to wait a month to follow up? Or do you want to try to follow up again in a couple of weeks, just to make sure that
Mhm.
the claim actually did get processed and get paid? And so this initial claim status investigation form is for you to use when you are uh, doing phone calls to the insurance company to find out what's going on with a claim, so that you can document the status of that phone call. Okay?
Okay.
Any questions on that?
No, I had something similar, so but this is I feel like more self-explanatory.
Uh-huh.
So I'm probably just gonna be using this one from now on.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Yes.
All right. So you're going to initiate that claim status. Um, Make sure you always get the name of the person that you're speaking with and the time of the call, and get a reference number. And one thing that you might want to do is you might want to, when you do the time of the call, you may want to do a time in and a time out, because occasionally, and your doctor's probably not like this, but occasionally I'll have doctors contact me and they'll be like, well, I don't know what my billing people do all day. you
Oh,
know,
okay. Yeah.
and so if you're having to spend a half an hour on the phone investigating unpaid claims, you should definitely uh, document that, and be aware of, of course, also be aware of the payers where you are going to end up spending a lot of time on the phone with them. You know what I mean? So if and oh, another thing is, when you're checking on a claim and the customer service rep states that the claim has already been processed or has already been
Mhm.
paid or denied, always ask them to send you a duplicate copy of the EOB, and see if they can
Okay.
either fax it to you, or and typically they can do that for you. And so make sure that you always ask for a duplicate copy of that EOB so you can reference back to it and at least get that EOB posted. Okay. And remember, if a claim has been denied, you need to then take it to the next step and ask them what can be done to appeal that claim. Okay, find
Mhm.
out why it was denied and what can be done to appeal the denial. Now, I don't know if you've run into this, but insurance companies are not usually very forthcoming in
Mhm.
telling you why a claim was denied, except for what is on the EOB. So like
Yeah.
if it says, CO50 not medically necessary, you can ask them, well, can you tell me what you mean by not medically necessary? And they'll say, well, the diagnosis code didn't match the service build, or it was a diagnosis code issue.
Mhm.
And then if you were to ask them, well, do you know what diagnosis code I should have used? They won't tell you that. They'll say, well, we can't tell you that information. But sometimes you can play 20 questions with them. Okay. And
Yeah.
and typically the way that would work is you would ask them, all right, well, if it's a diagnosis code problem, can you tell me by looking at the diagnosis codes if it is a problem with the order of the diagnosis codes? And they will tell you yes or no. And then what you can do is you can say, well, should this diagnosis code been placed in the top position and then flipped? And then they'll tell you yes. Okay.
Okay.
And so you can get the information from them, but you have to ask the questions the right way. They're not going to be forthright in telling you that it was, this is what the problem was. Okay.
Got it.
So just be aware of that sometimes it's going to be kind of ambiguous, the reasons why they denied it. Um, Another thing that you want to do, have you run into any denials for coordination of benefits where the patient has been sent a letter from the insurance company requesting information on coordination of benefits?
Not that one specifically. No.
Okay. In the beginning of the year, you may receive denials, or you may find that a bunch of claims are being pended at the insurance company site because the insurance company has sent the patients a letter requesting a coordination of benefits. It's kind of like an attestation that they have to do, and send back to the
Okay.
insurance company saying that they're the only insurance company and they don't have any other insurance, and they haven't changed
Right.
jobs. And many insurance companies will send these out like as a blanket letter to all of their beneficiaries at the beginning of each year. The problem is if the patient doesn't send it back, then all of the claims will be pended. And there are some insurance companies that are really, really bad about that. And so you'll end up having a bunch of claims that get stuck because the patients don't send the paperwork back. And then you're having to contact the patient to say, look, you need to send this in or your claim is not going to get paid. Um,
Mhm.
if that happens, I want you to remember that you have the right to request that the insurance company deny the claim to patient responsibility for the patient's failure to provide that information to the payer. Okay?
Okay.
But you have to specifically ask the payer to deny it to patient responsibility. And what you would do is you would call them and say, look, you sent this COB or coordination of benefits letter out in January, and the patient still hasn't responded. We've called the patient and told them to send it in. They haven't responded. We need to be able to balance bill the patient for this. And so I'm requesting that you deny this claim to patient responsibility since the patient has not submitted the information that they need to, and maybe that will light a fire under them. And so the insurance company will then process it as a denial, and then you can turn it all over to patient responsibility and send the patient a bill. But as long as it's in a pending status, you can't do that.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Mhm. I've had a couple of EOBs where um Aetna, I think they say that they still need information from the payer. I don't believe it was a coordination of benefits, but
Uh-huh.
it was some other type of paperwork.
Uh-huh.
Can I go through the same
Yep.
process?
If they're
Okay.
requesting information from the patient and the patient is not responding, then and you can show that, you know, in your patient notes that you've tried to call this patient and let them know that they needed to respond to the insurance carrier or their claim would be denied and then the bill would be theirs, and they're still not responding to it, then call the payer and tell the payer to deny it to patient responsibility.
Gotcha. All right.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, super. So let's see, what else do we need to cover here? What kind of a, let me ask you this, what kind of a calendar system or tracking system do you have for following up on unpaid claims?
Well, what I have is kind of similar to the report you showed me,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote down what it was and the action taken, and then I just keep those papers handy. There's a list of, you know, all the claims that I've done, and then a certain amount of time, I'll say, okay, now I can follow up on all of these
Okay,
after like a couple weeks. Yeah, I just keep
gotcha.
the documentation.
Okay, okay,
Mhm.
awesome. So, um, let me ask you this question. Have you ever run an accounts receivable report from ChiroTouch?
Um, I don't believe I might have without even noticing, but not that I know. Like, okay, I'm gonna do an
Not
account
like one that you've
report.
used to systematically work through each
Yeah.
month. Okay, okay, fine. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I'm going to pause the recording.
Okay.
So we, all right, so we're recording again, and all right, so here we are at your computer.
Mhm.
What I want to do is let's go ahead and log into ChiroTouch,
Okay. I
or,
have it
or
open.
okay, let's maximize ChiroTouch then.
Okay, hang on. Oh, there you go.
Okay, and so, all right, perfect. We're in the reports.
Mhm.
Awesome. Let's take a look then. Let's see what reports we have here. It's end of day, payment detail, my service provider, payments. Reports, provider reports.
I think there was the aged payer
Here we are,
receivable.
aged payer receivables.
Okay, that one.
Does it let you?
I think you have to double click
I'll let you do it.
or you, and then
Here we go. Okay. So,
yeah.
yeah. So we're just going to do Dr. Stokke, right?
Mhm. I normally just select all just in case, but
Okay, let's do that.
I don't know if that'll make too much of a difference.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, so let's just run. We've got all of these. These are all Medicare.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's just run the Medicare.
Okay.
And then you can, basically what we can do is we can go back to, let's say, January 1st of 2017.
Mhm.
Okay. And from current to, yeah, from current to 100. And if we want to, we can even go 30 to 60 days. So anything under 30 days won't even show up. Okay.
Mhm.
And then we can hit OK and OK. Right. So let's open.
There we go. Now we can maximize that.
Okay. So essentially, the cool thing, most of the time, the only thing that we don't have on this report that this is going to give you the information about the account, but you're still going to have to go back and get the patient's date of birth and their, and all that. So, okay, so essentially, okay, so here's this patient, Medicare, $128 over 121 days. Okay, shows the last insurance payment in 2016. Whoop, where do we go? Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Okay. Astrid?
Yes. Okay. It just hung up. So sorry about that.
Well, I went ahead and I logged out of the remote session, okay?
Okay.
Because I think what happens is that because we're logged in together on the GoToMeeting and then I log in again, it created that little wormhole kind of thing that you saw happen. So I think what we'll need to do is we'll go ahead and end the meeting, all right?
Okay.
And then I'll just call you directly and then log in through the remote session, okay? The remote, just to give you what the next, you can, I'm going to open it up and you just go ahead and don't type it in just yet, but when you see it, just write down the support key, and then after I log out, so you see the support key.
Yes.
Okay. So go to fastsupport.com and then put that support key in. Do you have it written down?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to end the meeting, and then I'll call you right back.
Okay. Sounds
Okay.
good.
As soon as I end the meeting, then you can enter in the support key.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.